Liverpool LGBTQ plus fan group appalled and concerned by reports Jordan Henderson could move to Saudi Arabia.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the Transfer Show. The latest on Henderson and a potentially lucrative but controversial move coming up.
Plus, Chelsea's revamp continues and Arsenal are in pre-season action right now. Kai Havertz is involved as well.
But still no Declan Rice. However, we expect the midfielder to become an Arsenal player tomorrow.
And could there be a big couple of weeks ahead for Erik ten Hag as Manchester United look to wrap up deals for a keeper and a striker?
But we start with Jordan Henderson and a potentially lucrative move to the Saudi Pro League. No decision has been made just yet, but the move has already drawn criticism from Liverpool's LGBTQ plus supporters group. Well, we're joined now by Melissa Reddy for all the very latest on this. Melissa, it seems to be causing quite a stir, this, but where do we stand with this potential deal so far?
Yeah, you know what, Alison, there's not a lot in football that shocks me, especially when it comes to transfers. But this was a big jolt because it was so unexpected. Where we stand is actually nowhere definitive. Al Ettifaq, they expect Jordan Henderson to say yes, but I've got no concrete confirmation that his decision in the affirmative has been made. Now, there's still no approach to Liverpool. There's been no discussion of a potential transfer fee or anything like that, but the club would expect double the £10 million that was reported earlier today. Just because of Henderson's status as the club captain, he's an England international, he's in supreme physical condition, obviously has a wealth of experience, the leadership qualities he brings. And what they'll be doing is using Saudi Arabian interest in Riyad Mahrez, whose valuation is around £30 million, to ascertain, how much they should be asking for Henderson. So they won't ask for as much because they know Mahrez is a better player, more talented player. Attacking players usually come at a premium, but in terms of age and contract length that's remaining on their existing deals, there's a lot for Liverpool to work off there. So you're looking at around £20 million for Jordan Henderson, but still no concrete confirmation that his decision has been made, and importantly, no approach yet to Liverpool for him.
We know that Steven Gerrard, Melissa, is the manager at Al Ettifaq. Just wonder how much of a driving factor he is in the deal, given he's a former teammate of Henderson.
He's colossal to Henderson actually deciding or considering this move to Saudi Arabia. There's been a lot spoken about the money involved, potentially more than trebling his current salary. But the allure will be that reunion with Steven Gerrard, who would have appealed to Henderson's desire to play regularly, would have appealed to Henderson's ambition, saying, come over here, build something great with me, help me hit the heights I want to achieve, help me restore my coaching career. I was also told that there might be an element there of Gerrard saying, you'd be a player, but you could also slowly learn how to coach and manage alongside me. So I think there's that. Gerrard would have obviously spoken to him about all the noise that he would have expected and that is currently emanating around this potential move, how to quell it, how he can still, sustain his legacy and how people have short memories, things like that. Henderson has been so influenced and inspired by Gerrard. So it's no shock, really, that the person who has been able to sway him and who we think has got him over the line to saying yes to this move is Gerrard. The other thing to note is when the story first emerged about Saudi Arabian interest in Jordan Henderson, I was told, actually, stay away from it. It's not true, can't be anything in it, that the player who was actually attracting interest from Saudi Arabia was Thiago. And it wasn't even that it was because they felt that nothing significant could come of it. Surely Jordan Henderson would not consider going to Saudi Arabia.
Melissa, you spoke about the noise that's been surrounding this. Can you understand the kind of criticism that this news has been met with?
Of course I can, because this is not just, a normal football transfer. No matter how many people want to try and frame it that way, this is not just about money on offer. And I keep seeing the phrase life-changing money. It's not, because Henderson's already a multi-millionaire. He just would be wealthier if he accepts this deal. But it would be legacy-changing, because Jordan Henderson has been a beacon for so many good causes. He has been an ally for so many disenfranchised communities. He has advocated so strongly and so consistently for human rights at every avenue. The initiatives he has sparked at club level and at international level has all given us, semblance of hope in football, that especially at times when we feel like we're losing the essence of the game, which is that community spirit, which is that togetherness. He's stood up for that, and Cop Outs, Liverpool's LGBT plus group, they've said they're appalled, they're concerned by Henderson even considering going to Saudi Arabia. They've also come out and criticised Steven Gerrard for taking on a manager role there. And Jordan Henderson, it was in 2021 when he was, nominated as a football ally for the LGBT plus community. So there's lots of people who will be looking at this and feeling like this guy that stood up for them, who has written in his program notes before about not having people feel alienated, about, all of us needing to be equal opportunities, have the same set of rights, the same set of opportunities, and yet he's deciding to go to a place, or potentially deciding to go to a place that has all these human rights abuses.
OK, Melissa, thank you very much for the update this evening. James Savundra and Damesh Sheth are with us this evening on the Transfer Show. Damesh, I'm going to come to you first. What's your take on this story?
I mean, the Saudi Pro League and what they're doing, they continue to surprise us. But it's got to the point where nothing is surprising anymore. But this one, I have to say, would be a real big surprise. We thought the Ruben Neves one was quite a bit of a shock, only because he's going to the Saudi Pro League at 26 years of age, at the absolute pomp of his career. And what the feeling was, players would start going to the Saudi Pro League towards the end of their careers. But look, Jordan Henderson still plays a major role as Liverpool captain for Liverpool Football Club. So this just feels like it would be on another level. Look, taking aside everything that Melissa was alluding to there with regard to the moral dilemma that Jordan Henderson might face, you can see why it would be a tough decision, because at 33 years old, historically in football, up until around the last couple of years, when you reach 30, it's that stage where everyone says, right, you're going to go into the latter stage of your career, and the club that you're at, particularly if it's a big club, normally they offer you a one-year contract, potentially. And then you might need to go elsewhere to get a longer contract to get that security. But the Saudi Pro League seems to have changed the dynamic. So whatever age you are, the name is carrying you forward into a position where you can play in another country, in another league, for huge amounts of money. Hence why it is such a big decision for players who get approached from teams from the Saudi Pro League to decide, this is life-changing money almost, for myself, for my family, for our future. So you can see why, just taking aside the moral dilemma that Jordan Henderson would face at the prospect of such a move, why he would have to think about it long and hard.
This would be such a huge statement from the Saudi Pro League to bring in a current England international. This would be the first one that they'd been able to bring in. 33 years of age, but as Damesh was saying there, still such an important part of Liverpool's team. 43 times he played for them last season, only missed 3 matches in the Premier League. It's going to be interesting to see what role Jurgen Klopp has for him this season. They've signed 2 midfielders in the form of Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai. Will he fall down the pecking order? Those will be the conversations that he's having or has had already with Jurgen Klopp. And crucially, his England future is at stake here as well. Would joining the Saudi Pro League end his chances of playing for England? Next summer, we've got the Euros taking place, and you think at Henderson's age, this will be the last opportunity he has to play for England in a major tournament. So how important is that to him? But saying that, the Saudi Pro League, day by day, are increasing the pool of talent and players joining at the peak of their career. We've seen that in the last few days. Ruben Neves joining, that took a few people by surprise. So maybe you get into a situation when the Saudi Pro League is seen competitive enough for you to retain your England place. We wait to see. That's a decision Gareth Southgate has to make. But Jordan Henderson has a decision to make about how important playing for England is to the rest of his career.
Just picking up on what James is saying there, we're talking about all of these players potentially going to the Saudi Pro League. Something that was agreed yesterday that we heard about that just went under the radar a little bit was that the former Chelsea sporting director, Michael Emenalo, he's agreed a deal in principle to become the Saudi Pro League's director of football. So he'll be overseeing the league, rather like how they do it in the MLS, rather than individual clubs having those sporting directors. Now, Sky Sports News has been told the move is to centralise the league's recruitment so that they continue bringing in these big names. And when you've got someone like Michael Emenalo, who some regard as, one of the best sporting directors and a real expert in his role. I mean, in 6 years at Chelsea between 2011 and 2017, he was heavily involved in bringing players in like Eden Hazard, N'Golo Kante, Mohamed Salah, Kevin De Bruyne as well. So it's not only on the pitch that the Saudi Pro League are being very, very serious about bringing these names in. They're now recruiting someone who can recruit even more of these big name players. And we expect a formal announcement on Michael Emenalo's appointment as the director of football for the Saudi Pro League to come very soon.
OK, gents, thank you very much for now. Plenty more to come on the transfer show. Arsenal fans, Damesh is about to put you at ease over 2 potential incomings.
And we've got the latest from Manchester United and their search for a new goalkeeper coming up.
Welcome back to the transfer show. We've got a few bits of breaking news to bring you now, transfer related as well. Firstly, Rodrigo has left Leeds to join Al Rayyan in Qatar. This is what Leeds have had to say on their Twitter. Leeds United thanks Rodrigo for his efforts and wishes him all the best for the future as the striker joins Al Rayyan. And Al Rayyan have posted a picture of Rodrigo with a shirt unveiling as well. He was Leeds' top scorer last season and had just 12 months left on his contract. So he has gone to Qatar to play for Al Rayyan.
Well, we're going to get to Arsenal in just a moment, but just a quick line to bring you from Sky Germany. So their reporter Florian Plessenberg is reporting that Aston Villa have had a £45 million bid for Moussa Diaby rejected by Bayer Leverkusen. He's been linked heavily with a move to the Premier League. And one of those teams is Arsenal. But Damesh, for now, should we focus on Declan Rice? Because I think some Arsenal fans are getting a little bit nervy. What's going on there?
Well, the information I have is not to worry, because we've been told that there are no issues with the deals for the West Ham United captain and midfielder Declan Rice, nor with the Ajax defender Jurrien Timber. You know that Arsenal fly out for their US tour on Sunday afternoon, and both announcements could be made by the time that squad departs. So I think they want to get it all done and dusted before then, so that Rice and Timber are both involved in that US tour. Just a reminder of the deals. We know how big the one for Declan Rice is. £100 million plus £5 million in add-ons. It's the biggest fee between 2 British clubs, just shy of the British transfer record that Chelsea paid Benfica for Enzo Fernandez last summer, just a tad over £106 million. And as for Jurrien Timber, they're signing him as a right-back, we think. £34 million initial payment plus £4 million in add-ons. But we're told there are no issues for those deals and they should go through soon.
Okay.
Sorry, just worth pointing out that Arsenal are in action, obviously, right now in their pre-season game. 1-0 up at the moment, Bukayo Saka. And Havertz has just come on, and Jesus as well. Off go Nelson and Saka. Yeah.
OK, well, plenty of new players, James. Plenty of money spent as well. I think, if I'm right, over £200 million with these big 3 deals in Havertz, Rice and Timber. When these players join officially, which surely must be soon now, as Damesh was saying, Arsenal will have a much bigger squad for the upcoming season. Is that a good or bad thing?
I think it's a really good thing. It's been a really successful summer for Arsenal already. Let's bear in mind 4 weeks to go until their opening game of the Premier League season against Nottingham Forest. And if you look at the squad they have now, yes, players will depart over the coming weeks, but they pretty much have cover now in virtually every position, and crucially for Arsenal, quality cover as well. We've seen their title challenge fall away last season, their top 4 challenge fall away the season before because of lack of depth in key positions at key moments in the season. Last season, losing Saliba and crucially as well, Tomiyasu left them scrambling around for Premier League ready replacements, and we saw the number of goals they shipped towards the end of last season. But now they're well equipped to compete both domestically and in Europe, and they could therefore now, although they wouldn't want to, afford injuries to key players and still feel like they have backup. We saw last season Gabriel Jesus miss a number of months. Eddie Nketiah stepped in and played really well. But now, when there are going to be potentially injuries in the defensive areas, now Arsenal will feel in particular that they're well stocked.
Darmish, a quick one for you. Arsenal might not be done there either.
Yeah, look, as James alluded to there, the focus will be on departures simply because they've spent, as Jasper said there, probably £200 million once the Rice and the Timber deals go through. But the right-sided attacking position, that is something that I think Arsenal will be trying to look at. They've been focusing on that position in the past couple of transfer windows. So maybe just keep an eye on that, and maybe just on the central midfield area as well. I know that Declan Rice is on the verge of coming in, but Granit Xhaka has left as well. But if Thomas Partey potentially was to leave, because we know that there is a lot of interest in Thomas Partey. That is just in an interest stage at the moment, but if that was to develop, then maybe Arsenal would look potentially to look into recruiting in there as well.
OK, a little bit of breaking news to bring us then, Darmish, concerning Willian. What can you tell us?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of movement for Willian just now. We think that Nottingham Forest have held talks with Willian. He's a free agent after he left Fulham last season. Lots of talk about whether it had gone as advanced as a medical or even beyond that. Our information at this stage is that it hasn't. We still believe that Fulham, where he was last season on a one-year deal, they remain interested in Willian as well. And there is interest from some Saudi Arabian clubs, surprise, surprise, as well for Willian. So let's see how that one develops. But a number of clubs interested in Willian.
OK, let's park Arsenal for now and move to Manchester United. Let's talk about potential incomings first of all, Darmish. What can you tell us? What's the very latest for a search for a new goalkeeper?
Yeah, this one is turning into a bit of a saga, but it looks like it's getting closer. United remaining hopeful they can come to a compromise with Inter Milan over a fee for their goalkeeper, Andre Onana, and of course the structure of that deal as well. Positive talks, we are told, have been continuing throughout the whole of this week. In an ideal scenario, Manchester United would want to get this deal done before they go on their tour of the United States, to have Andre Onana in that squad. The deal, we must re-emphasise here, is being pushed by the manager Erik ten Hag. We know he's got a great relationship with Onana. Onana played under Erik ten Hag when he was at Ajax, and United are doing all that they can to get this one done. However, given all the budgetary constraints Manchester United have, they will not overpay. They are very comfortable with how they're approaching this deal and how much they are prepared to pay Inter Milan for Andre Onana. And it should also be noted, we saw a soundbite from Simone Inzaghi earlier on today, the Inter Milan manager, and he actually said that the club would actually need to sell players before they can bring players in. And we know that there's this much publicised pursuit of Romelu Lukaku, which is kind of falling short of Chelsea's valuation. I just wonder whether they need to get a deal done for Onana before they can fully pursue the deal for Romelu Lukaku. But as far as Manchester United are concerned, they are very encouraged by Onana's desire to come to Old Trafford, and I think that is something that's very, very important to Erik ten Hag. Personal terms not expected to be a problem, but if they can't get this deal over the line, they've still got options in the goalkeeping department. Tom Heaton's just signed a new contract, and of course Dean Henderson has returned from his loan at Nottingham Forest. However, if on the flip side, and what they hope will happen is that Andre Onana does arrive at Old Trafford, then I think they will sanction the reopening of talks with Nottingham Forest for a permanent move for Dean Henderson back to the City Ground. OK,
you called the goalkeeping situation a saga. I just wonder if some Manchester United fans will be getting a little bit more concerned about the striking situation, which doesn't seem to be a saga at the moment. It just seems to be a bit of nothing.
Look, The search for a number 9 seems to have been the primary focus throughout this transfer window. And it just seems to be fluctuating what it seems to be the primary target. At the moment, it looks like they want to get this Andre Onana deal done and dusted as quickly as possible. We've seen over the weekend that, the whole David De Gea saga, that ended with him not going to be signing a new contract at Manchester United, hence the need for a goalkeeper at Old Trafford. But so while the focus remains on Onana for now, they do continue to negotiate, United, with Atalanta over the Denmark international striker Rasmus Højlund. Again, there appears to be a willingness from all parties, in particular from the player himself, to get this deal done and dusted. However, rather like the Onana deal, Manchester United have got a valuation for the player. They won't be overspending, and they won't just be saying, OK, we'll pay whatever Atalanta want, because they do realise this is a young player and they have a valuation for someone who is in that position. So that is why Manchester United will look at other options at the same time. But on the flip side, Atalanta will know that Manchester United are desperately in need of a striker. Hence, they might play on that when they come to negotiating a selling price.
OK, Dharmesh, thank you for now. I believe there's news of an Arsenal goal, Alison.
There's actually news of a Nuremberg goal, so it's an equaliser, so 1-1 at the moment. It was Saka who went ahead on the set at the moment. As I said, Havertz and Jesus are now on.
OK, from Arsenal to Tottenham then. Coming up next here on Sky Sports News, will Harry Kane leave North London this summer? We're live to Munich as Bayern look to prize Tottenham's star man away from the club. Do stay with us here on The Transfer Show.
Hello there, welcome back to The Transfer Show. Well, Harry Kane looks set to dominate the transfer window with his future at Tottenham unclear.
Yeah, we know that Bayern Munich have held talks with the club over signing the England captain, but as of yet, no deal is agreed due to a difference of opinion around valuation.
Well, for more on this, we can speak to our European football expert, Rafa Honigstein, who is live with us in Bayern in Munich. Rafa, first of all, just talk to us about your understanding of the situation regarding Harry Kane.
Well, the situation, Alison, is that Bayern continue to be very optimistic. They feel that they have a strong sense of intention from Harry Kane that he wants to go to Bayern, that if a deal can be agreed between them and Tottenham, that he will be a Bayern player come, I don't know, maybe the end of July. But of course, that still leaves a massive sticking point. And so far, Bayern haven't been able to really make any headway with Spurs. There's been 2 offers. There's a disagreement over semantics, whether it's been 2 formal offers or just 2 approaches, but certainly 2 sets of different numbers have been mentioned. And so far, Spurs have given no indication that they're willing to agree any of them. And Bayern, I think, have their own limit with the player being out of contract next season. They don't want to do any crazy stuff. I think 100 million euros, around about 80 million pounds or so, I think is the absolute maximum they want to pay. It might not be enough for Spurs. So we'll have to see how that one works out.
Rafa, is there a genuine possibility that we could see Harry Kane in a Bayern Munich shirt next season, do you think?
Well, Bayern think so. Bayern feel that the hardest bit has been done. At least historically, it's been the main part of the deal is to find an agreement with a player. As soon as you have that, then more often than not, you can do something on the club side. But of course, this is a very special case. Under normal circumstances, the player out of contract, a club fearful of losing him for nothing would probably be amenable to doing a deal. But Harry Kane, of course, is more than a player. He wants to be who he is, a talisman. He is the captain. He is the player that maybe a future Tottenham will be built around. So all these considerations to be taken into account. Bayern still, as I said, feel that they might get some way of doing that deal, but it depends on finding a room with Daniel Levy, and we know how difficult that is. So they're beginning, I think, to understand that it's not going to be a straightforward negotiation, and it might drag out for a little bit, but they are prepared to wait.
Right. It's a curious one, isn't it? Because Tottenham seem to be adamant they don't want to sell, but surely Bayern are getting encouragement from somewhere. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, they've been getting very strong encouragement from Harry Kane and the people around him. They feel that Harry Kane has said to them, look, if you can get a deal done, I'll be a Bayern Munich player. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying. And nobody, despite all the tapping up rules and all that, nobody does a deal after doing a deal with the club, you always first approach the player. Once the player has given you encouragement and says, I can see myself in a Bayern Munich shirt, then you start doing a deal. They wouldn't be pushing, they wouldn't be making offers to Spurs if they didn't have an agreement with Harry Kane in place that he would be coming if a deal can be struck. But the big if is, of course, can a deal be struck? Harry Kane, I think, is probably in a very comfortable position because if Bayern don't figure this out, if Spurs do not want to sell, then his value is not going to go down. He can still sign a new deal. He can still run down his contract and then take an even bigger pick from the teams next season. So he can sit and wait. But Bayern wouldn't be trying hard if they didn't feel that Harry Kane actually wants to join them.
Yeah, as you said, he's got a year left on his contract, which means that he can have the pick of the clubs next season and a signing-on fee as well for his personal financial situation. But also, we know that he's chasing this Premier League record. He's not too far off Alan Shearer. It means a lot to him. He's been at Tottenham for pretty much his whole career, give or take a few loan spells. What do you think the attraction is for Kane to join Bayern, Rafa?
Well, I think it's threefold. First of all, I think on the sporting level, Bayern Munich kind of guarantee you trophies. You might say Bundesliga isn't that sexy. They win it most of the time, yes, but you can still win the Cup in Berlin. It's a pretty big occasion. And of course, you have a genuine chance of winning the Champions League. This is still essentially the team that won the Champions League 3 years ago, minus Lewandowski. This is the manager who won in Thomas Tuchel the Champions League 2 years ago with a team that's arguably less skillful than Bayern. Now, if you add Harry Kane to the mix, then I think you can start to think that this might be a winning formula. And I'm sure that's the case that Bayern Munich would have made to Harry Kane. Financially, it would be very lucrative. Bayern don't tend to pay big transfer fees, but they pay big wages. I'm sure he'd be something north of £400,000 a week, not a month. Harry Kane, rest assured, it'll be a week. and on top of that, the lifestyle, the quality of life in Munich is very, very high. It's a very beautiful place. You're very close to the Alps. It's a very green, very safe city. Big international school, English school, American school. You've got everything you need as an expat to have a really good time. And of course, he's still young enough to come back and then break the Premier League record, maybe 3-4 years down the line. So I think that would have been very much Bayern's pitch as well. You don't have to choose between one or the other. Come to us now, win a few things, have a go in the Champions League. Don't wait for Spurs to, make up the ground before they get back into the Champions League. Play in the Champions League, then come back. Maybe Spurs would be in a better position 3 years down the line.
Rafa, that's a very compelling sales pitch.
You sold it to us, I think.
I'm sure the Spurs fans won't thank you for that.
Sky Germany, are you listening?
Exactly.
Yeah, get us over there.
If Bayern don't sign Kane, though, this summer, do you think they can wait? Do you think they will wait? Or do you think they've got backup options? Are they looking at other options right now, as far as you know?
It's a really good question, Alison. I'm not sure Bayern themselves know the answer. Now, we're hearing from Bayern that they are prepared to wait. But are they really? I think at the very least they need to do is get somebody in on loan to fill that gap, because they saw last year how important the number 9 is. That's when things kind of fell down for them last season. So there's talk of Julian Alvarez, maybe from Manchester City. Maybe they can get him on loan. They would love to have him. I'm not sure Pep Guardiola would be so amenable to that. They would love to perhaps have a look at Dusan Vlahovic from Juventus. There's talk of Niklas Füllkrug, the German international who plays at Werder Bremen. Maybe he can come in. He's out of contract next season. He wouldn't be very expensive. Maybe he can come in just to bridge that gap and become backup striker for Harry Kane. But the problem with that is, I think, that you're relying on Harry Kane and still saying, you know what, yes, I've given you my word and now I'm coming to Munich. And I'm not sure Bayern are 100% certain that will be the case, because let's say Kane has another fantastic season, 6 months down the line, everyone can talk to him very openly. No one can stop him going to wherever he wants. And that might not make it so easy for Bayern to make this deal happen. I think a big part of their advantage, if you will, is the timing, that they feel with Manchester United having other preoccupations with a deal going through or not going through, that they're in a position now to do this deal, whereas everybody else perhaps isn't. But things can change. So they would love to do it now rather than hope and pray that it'll still happen next season.
OK, Rafa, interesting stuff. Thank you so much for being on the Transfer Show this evening.
You what?
Right, Dalmesh, if Tottenham don't want to sell, which they have always said about Harry Kane, Why is there a sense that they are still talking with Bayern Munich?
It should be said it's an open dialogue between Tottenham and Bayern Munich, and that is the question. Why is that open dialogue still there? Well, I think it comes down to the fact that Tottenham have made it clear they don't want to sell, number one, but they don't want to sell to a Premier League rival. Now, if Harry Kane was to leave in this transfer window, they would want to sell him abroad, because then it would mean, number one, he doesn't go to a Premier League rival this summer, but also if he signs permanently for Bayern Munich, it rules out the possibility of him leaving for free to a Premier League rival next summer when his contract is up. But look, could all be redundant, because Tottenham have got no intention of selling. They're saying Harry Kane simply is not for sale. But the scenarios that are there right now, I think Harry Kane is exploring all of those avenues. So it's either stay and don't sign a new contract. It's either stay and sign a new contract and stay at Spurs for the rest of his career potentially, or it is to move, but only to a foreign club in this summer's transfer window. There is another scenario, because we're just assuming that if Harry Kane remains a Tottenham player come 11 o'clock on September the 1st, that he will leave for free next summer. Well, he'll still be a Tottenham player for next season. And who's to say that Ange Postecoglou cannot convince Harry Kane, the Tottenham board cannot convince Harry Kane during that time? It will all depend on what Ange Postecoglou does, what the recruitment has been like during the transfer window. It may turn Harry Kane's head to say, actually, do you know what? I do want to be part of this, so maybe I can still sign a new contract. However far-fetched that idea might be if he doesn't sign a new contract before the end of this transfer window. But the other issue is, which we've been talking about every time we talk about Harry Kane, is the Premier League goal-scoring record. How important is that to him? Looks like it's very important. It's only 47 goals behind Alan Shearer. There is that, possibility. He could go to Bayern Munich maybe. Tottenham could make their money this summer, and then 2 or 3 years down the line, come back and still break the goal-scoring record.
Yeah.
So many scenarios, but as it stands, and as has been the case since he signed his new contract in 2018, the decision is not Harry Kane's. He can say, I want to do this, I want to do that. Tottenham Hotspur will make the decision. They hold the cards at the moment.
It's a compelling situation, isn't it? But, James, it does feel incredibly different from last summer, doesn't it? When we had Harry Kane wanting to leave for Manchester City, not reporting for training. There was lots of noise around that situation. It feels very different this time around, doesn't it?
Yeah, 2 summers ago, that's when Nuno Espirito Santo eventually got the job at Spurs, and it was a very different atmosphere there. Man City pushing very hard to get Harry Kane. He's reported back for pre-season training already early this week. Ange Postecoglou's been having conversations with him over the last couple of days, and we understand Harry Kane hasn't closed any of the different avenues open to him at the moment. He's welcome to stay at Spurs. That could be something he decides to do. But also, he's up for speaking to Bayern Munich if Spurs do decide to strike a deal with Bayern. We don't think that's going to be the case as things stand. But ultimately, whilst he does have 1 year left on the contract, and we've been saying that with each passing window, the power comes more into the hands of Harry Kane. But ultimately, in this transfer window, it is still Spurs who control his destiny. And as we understand at this point, at least, compared to what happened 2 years ago, Harry Kane is not trying to force his way out of Spurs.
OK, let's get back to Manchester United. We were discussing outgoings earlier, James, and we know that United, for them to be able to spend big, there's going to have to be departures this summer as well, not just free departures.
Yeah, we've discussed how this is a difficult window for Manchester United because of financial constraints, also financial fair play rules as well. But we do know if they sell well this summer, then they have real potential to boost the amount of money that they can spend on improving their squad. But recent history will tell us that Manchester United haven't necessarily done this very well in recent history. If we look at what happened since Sir Alex Ferguson retired in 2013, here are some of the deals, the biggest deals that Manchester United have done when it comes to outgoings. When you look at that list, Daniel James, the only player they actually got a significant profit on, and the likes of Lukaku and Di Maria, they've sold at a fairly significant loss as well. So Manchester United simply cannot afford that this season, rather than letting players go for cheap or potentially for free, which we've seen in the last 10 years as well. It's quite remarkable, the list of players who have left for free in the last 10 years. United may argue, when you look at the likes of Juan Mata, Nemanja Matic and David De Gea, that they've had good value from their players when you consider the length of time at the club, the amount they've featured for them and the amount they've won. But Paul Pogba there, 93.25 million. He left the club twice for free. To not recoup a single penny from the players you see listed on the screen there is very poor business, and they'll hope not to repeat that in the future when it comes to this window and future windows as well.
Yeah. And Darmish, that graphic is quite alarming if you're a Manchester United fan. Do you think that the multiple managers that we've seen has contributed to seeing so many players leave on trial?
I think it is a contributory factor. We've discussed this many times on the transfer show about what's happened in Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson retired in 2013. The selection of the managers hasn't necessarily been a common thread that's gone through the football club with regard to the managers and the sporting directors, because clubs at the moment, the sporting director comes in, don't they? And they decide, right, this is the direction we want to go in. This is the manager we want to recruit, and it's got to be conducive to the way we want to play. And so we're going to buy players that are going to be conducive to the way we play. So that if the manager doesn't work and the results aren't great, if the manager goes, they'll just bring in another manager who they feel will be able to work with the players that are there. Whereas I think United did it almost the opposite way. They decided, right, David Moyes is almost like a replica of Ferguson, or he could be. So let's bring him in. That didn't work. Oh, what should we do? Let's bring in Louis van Gaal. He's been there and done it. That didn't work. Oh, Jose Mourinho, he's been there, won everything. Let's bring him in. That didn't happen. But what happened every time these new managers came in, they spent lots of money, and the next manager didn't necessarily like those players, and so they had to keep overhauling that squad. Now they've got to the point where I think they really thought about how they were going to decide on their new manager with Erik ten Hag, and they went through a proper due diligence process on exactly how they were going to choose the manager, exactly how they wanted to play. And what's happened? Well, let's see, we've only been there for one season, of course, but a trophy has come in for Manchester United under Erik ten Hag, and he's qualified them for the Champions League. So far, the recruitment has been, admittedly, players that Erik ten Hag has really focused on himself, but it's also been conducive to the way that he wants to play and how Manchester United want to play.
Yes, some clever signings as well, including the likes of Casemiro, of course, had such a big impact last season. Right, guys, thank you very much for now. Plenty more to come, though, on the transfer show. News from West Ham as David Moyes looks to strengthen his squad. Plus, what does the future hold for Romelu Lukaku at Chelsea?
Hello there, welcome back to the Transfer Show. Well, Chelsea have been very busy as we expected this month. So we've got a couple of players to update. Darmish, what's the latest? Give us the latest on Romelu Lukaku, checking constantly.
Yeah. So with Romelu Lukaku, Chelsea, we understand, have got 3 serious bidders for the striker. Talks ongoing with all 3 clubs. It's understood, though, Lukaku's preference hasn't changed. He wants to go back to Inter Milan, and he's willing to take a £1 million a year pay cut to try and make that deal happen. However, we're told that while the Inter Milan option is a viable option as far as Chelsea are concerned, they have not yet made an offer that Chelsea are satisfied with. In fact, we think that the Inter Milan offer is the lowest of all 3 clubs that are interested in Romelu Lukaku. And as I said before, the Inter boss, Simone Inzaghi, has said that they would need to sell players first before they can buy. Hence why, if there is a small gap between what Chelsea would want and what Inter are prepared to pay, maybe the Andre Onana deal, if that can get over the line, would give them those funds to be able to go and buy Romelu Lukaku. Juventus, we're told, have also held talks, and Al Hilal, surprise, surprise, again, a Saudi Arabian club, wants to bring in Romelu Lukaku as well.
OK, once those funds do come in to Chelsea, how likely are they to spend it on Moises Caicedo?
They desperately want him. They remain in talks with Brighton over the signing of Moises Caicedo, and I think they're getting a bit of encouragement, especially with some of the public utterances from Moises Caicedo, that the player does want to come to Stamford Bridge. Caicedo is actually quoted as saying the following: "It's a very historic team, which I can't say no to." Doesn't get much more clearer than that. But personal terms not expected to be a problem. However, early indications suggest, unsurprisingly, that there's a gap between what Brighton would want and what Chelsea are prepared to pay. We think Brighton value him in the same region as Declan Rice. It could be around £100 million that they'd want. As it stands, Caicedo is expected to be part of Brighton's squad that goes on their US tour. July the 22nd, though, Philadelphia. Keep your eye out, Chelsea against Brighton.
Yeah, it's getting close, isn't it? James, it's interesting. We did expect Chelsea to get rid of players and fast, but they wasted no time and they've managed to sell a lot of their squad that they wanted to.
Yeah, and another one tonight. Christian Pulisic signing for AC Milan for around £18.8 million. That confirmed in the last couple of hours. And we spoke before about Manchester United's struggles to sell well. It's something Chelsea have done brilliantly in recent history, and especially, as you say, in the last few weeks as well. We know last season they spent over £500 million on players in January and in the previous window as well. But already in this window alone, £225 million back into the club through player sales, and think about the wages off the wage bill as well. And with the potential, as Darmish was speaking about there, Lukaku leaving the club, Aubameyang, Hudson-Odoi, 2 more players who could depart in the next few weeks. So getting this business done so early means they're well equipped to support Mauricio Pochettino and potentially sign a player like Moises Caicedo while sticking within financial fair play guidelines. They've lost the nucleus of their team. It's quite remarkable to see how that Champions League winning squad has been broken up. It's been decimated in the last few weeks, in the last year or so. But now Pochettino has been given the licence and the opportunity to build a new nucleus now.
OK, let's talk about West Ham, because they are going to have to do some rebuilding as well. We know that they're coming into a lot of money, Darmish. Any chance that might be spent on Dennis Zakaria?
They want to spend a bit of it on Dennis Zakaria. Talks continuing to progress with Juventus over the potential signing of Zakaria. West Ham hopeful that they can get that deal over the line. Still a gap in valuation as it stands. Not one, though, that we expect to jeopardise any deal permanently, but there is still that gap. Juventus have made it clear that they want to do a permanent deal, or at the very least, if West Ham are interested in a loan, that loan has to come with an obligation to buy. Now, it's interesting, this one, because this move is being driven by the West Ham United technical director, the new one, Tim Stuyton. He actually tried to sign Dennis Zakaria when he was the sporting coordinator at Bayer Leverkusen, and Zakaria was at Borussia Mönchengladbach. West Ham looking at other midfielders as well. Southampton's James Ward-Prowse has a long-term interest in him. Fulham's João Palhinha. Seems to be a big gap in valuation as far as that one is concerned. And Bristol City's Alex Scott, young player, highly rated. Bournemouth, you'll remember we reported earlier this week, have had a bid rejected already, £15 million. We think Bristol City are looking for more, around £25 million for him.
OK. What about defenders, Darmish?
Yeah, they remain in the market for a central defender. Initial talks were held with Real Betis, we think, for Luis Felipe, but he's one of a number of defenders that West Ham are looking at. Per Schurz from Torino, there's an interest in him, and Bayer Leverkusen's Jonathan Tah. Bayer Leverkusen, Tim Stuyton, that link once again. OK, we've only got about a minute left. Let's rattle through some more deals. James, starting with Aaron Ramsey.
Yeah, set to undergo a medical with Cardiff, the club where he started his career. We understand he's turned down a huge offer from a Saudi Arabian club to play in the Pro League, to play in the Championship instead, and return to a club where he made his debut at the age of just 16. OK,
what about Donnarumma?
Yeah, the PSG goalkeeper. Lots of speculation about his future, whether he would be leaving PSG, but we were told that he expects to play for PSG next season. He has been told by the senior management at the club that he will be welcome back. He's contracted until 2026, not looking to move away, and he says he is happy in Paris.
James, an outgoing at Coventry today.
Yeah, they confirmed that Victor Gyökeres has joined Sporting Lisbon, the highest transfer fee Coventry have ever received. We believe that's around £20 million. In terms of potential strikers also leaving the Championship, we understand Swansea bracing themselves for bids from clubs in the Championship and the Premier League for Joel Peru. 19 goals in the Championship last season, and Swansea will look at a similar fee that Coventry got for Gyökeres.
OK, finally, Darmish, Ashley Young has a new club.
Done deal. He was out of contract at Aston Villa at the end of last season. He has now joined Everton as we expected him to. Had a medical earlier on this week. 38 years old, signed a 1-year contract. OK,
gents, thank you so much for all of your insight across the last hour. By the way, it's finished in Arsenal's pre-season friendly. They drew 1-1 with Nuremberg. Stay with us here on Sky Sports News for a recap of all of the biggest stories from the day. Plus, we'll be keeping you right up to date with the Super League and the golf.